to share some things with you. I'm not exactly sure what the Lord has for me to process through and share with you tonight. I know that I was watching C.S. Lewis about his life, and it was a very beautiful, very hard documentary about a man who lived a very tragic lifestyle, a very lonely, tragic lifestyle. And I guess in his time, it would be seen as, a very complicated, unique kind of lifestyle, the way he lived. But I really was struck at the end by the words that he spoke, and maybe you guys can make more sense of it. Maybe it's just something about the tone and the poetic nuance throughout it that really struck a chord. But he spoke to the words that he had no idea that grief could be so like fear. And it was so on point to how I have been feeling all day. We oftentimes think of grief as in a loss of a loved one, as in a death. We often think of grief as in an immense loss and heartache and, a deep dark pit. But a lot of times we don't realize that there are small things that go through our lives and that we encounter that cause this feeling of grief that we may not be able to name. This morning I woke up very troubled compared to yesterday. It was a vast, stark difference. Yesterday I was on fire for the Lord. Yesterday I was speaking about his church, and I could just say whatever I wanted to about God and his awesome goodness. This last night, I went to bed earlier, but it was rough. It was a very rough, long night. A lot of fighting my nightmares, you could say. Fighting demons. Some nights are like that. But when I woke up this morning, I knew something was not right. I just had no name for it. And then listening to that and hearing those words just struck a huge chord in me. Because I think that's what I've been going through all day today is grief. And it sounds funny, but I reached out to my family and I'm like, this is what I'm feeling. Can you help me figure out? And now that's really kind of like, oh, that's sweet. But for me, it's a far desperate cry in a sense because I don't reach out to my family and explain a lot of times where I'm at. And this was me like, okay, something is majorly going on and I don't know what's going on. I need help. It didn't really help because my family started just texting me, well, was it this? Was it that? What about this? And after like 5 or 6 texts of 20 different more things that could possibly connect to this, I realized, wow, my life has been a tragic romance, if you might want to call it that. There has not been a lot of stillness. There has not been a lot of peace and calmness and interactions and circumstances, I guess you could say. That was kind of a wake-up call. Looking at those texts and being like, no, that happened end of the year. That also happened at the end of the year. A lot of those did happen at the end of the year, or the beginning of the year. The middle of the year usually was my kind of calm moment. Calm in the storm. I had the storm kind of moment. But it really was shocking. But tonight when I heard those words, I just felt that sinking feeling that this is what it is. I've been in some conversations lately, and some really, really awesome conversations, but they really are pulling at things that are really digging up old things, and today I guess the Lord just wanted me to just go through this, as weird as that sounds, that I needed to go through a day of grieving, intense, major grieving, for all that I've suffered and encountered and lost. And not particularly of deaths, but immaterial deaths, I guess you could say. Of deaths that are not per se in the ground, but that are shadows of the past, People I've encountered and lost, and people that have passed through. And the Lord has always been kind in showing me, in a sense, ahead of time, that this is to pass. And it sounds cruel, but sometimes that kind of readies the heart. And I spoke to something a few videos back, well, quite a few videos back, to something in my life. And that situation, situational grief, is a huge part of what I think today I'm going through. Just the immense amount of lost experiences, of lost never having, I guess you could say. I really lived in a land of what I thought was, but I'm finding out that it never was. And I feel like I'm kind of beating around the bush, and maybe you guys are like, I have no idea what she's talking about. But it's hard for me to be vulnerable and truthful to a screen and a bunch of strangers, but you're my family and you're my world. And we're all kingdom children. But I guess I will voice it, as I feel like this is maybe what the Lord really is pushing me to say. But amidst my divorce, there's a lot of loss. And people don't realize that. People don't recognize that it's not just the loss of a human being. It's a loss of a life that could be. It's a loss of things that were. It's a loss of something that might have never been. And as I continue these conversations and journey down this new path I'm on, I am recognizing that I am grieving what I never had and didn't know I didn't have, which I think is crueler than having it and losing it, is thinking you had it and finding out you never even touched the possibilities of it. And though I could say, I love the man I married, I can't say that's honest truth. I can't say that that journey was actual anything but fiction. Everything was so lied, was full of lies and betrayal and manipulation and cruelty to a point, if you want to think of it that way, that it was a mirage of what never was. I didn't get to experience a lot of things, and I'm only just now beginning to realize that. And so I think today has just been a period of just grief, an immense feeling of grief for what I never had and was led to believe I had. And anybody who's lived through that, my heart really hurts for you, because when someone makes you believe that this is all there is, that this is what's wonderful and good, it's this small of something that could be that big. And you never knew that there was more. You never knew that there was unimaginable things awaiting you, because you're kept in this tiny little box. And you were told that what you had was good. That was all you knew. You didn't question. You believed and you trusted. It was the wrong kind of trust. It was the wrong kind of belief. But now I have a Lord and Savior who tells me that small little box to cast it away. I've spoken to rules, and I've spoken to boundaries, and I've spoken to lines. But we don't need to live in boxes. We don't need to live in the construct of a fake idealistic belief system. We have a God who has not just this, but that, and more for us. And we don't recognize it, and we don't realize it. And that's really heartbreaking, because we allow people into our lives that create this tiny little box and say, well, this is the way life's going to look. This is all you're going to have. You're not going to know anything different, so you're not going to miss it. But deep down inside, you grieve and you miss it. You don't know what you're grieving, you don't know what you're missing, but you know something is missing. And that's where Jesus comes in to fulfill it. That's where Jesus comes in and casts that out to bring better, more wonderful, more loving, more kind people into your life. To make that box not this, but that. And I'm really recognizing that today, I believe. And so maybe it's not just one thing, that I'm grieving today. But maybe it's a lot. Maybe it's my whole life, you know? My life is not like this. My life is this. And that's because of Jesus. And people don't get it. You don't get how immense and how great and how wonderful our God is and all that he has in store for us. People don't get it, especially when they live within that tiny little box. Especially when they are hand-fed a Bible and told, oh, here's a Bible. Read it, you'll know God, you're set for heaven. Sorry guys, that's a lie. Oh, there's a church with a steeple. You're set for heaven. That's a lie too. None of that might get you to look at the access of heaven, but it's not going to get you there. Your heart for Jesus, your belief for Jesus, your belief in the Word and who he is, that's what's going to get you there. You don't need a tiny little box to get you there. You don't need to just accept this pretentious, I guess is the word that really comes to my mind, this pretentious belief system. We don't need to follow that. We need to believe in Jesus and him alone. He doesn't make boxes for us. There's a tiny little box. That's for you know who, the devil, and now you can just stomp on it. Remember that song from childhood? Makes me happy every time I think about it. But that's what the box needs to be for. Jesus doesn't give us boxes. He gives us rooms. He gives us yards. He gives us gardens. He gives us oceans. And the vast skies. And many lands. He doesn't stick us in a box and say, well, be happy. Because he knows that we're not going to be. We're not going to be. He doesn't want to see us unhappy. He loves us. And I just keep thinking about those words. You know, grief and fear. I struggled a lot with some crazy fears last night. And the Lord was able to talk me down off that tree and help to rationalize. And I was okay and at peace this morning with that. But in the midst, I think, of recognizing those fears, an immense wailing grief overtook me. I can't tell you how many times I basically pulled the car over just to cry in the middle of my Instacart, deliveries. I can't tell you how many times I'm literally about ready to hit the steering wheel and just scream. Or how many times I just literally felt like throwing up and my stomach was just so tight and my head hurt and I just wanted to cry. But I could not find no tears in that moment. That feeling of just panic all day, only being seized by some simple, sweet conversations with some people, that was my existence today. And the realization, I'm sorry, I don't know what my dog's doing. and the realization, that amidst me recognizing my fears yesterday, no matter how crazy and wild, no matter how terrifying they were, that I had to come down from those fears into this season and this period and this session of grief today. Grief and fear go 2 and 2. The Lord doesn't ask us to be grief-filled. He doesn't ask us to be fear-filled. But grief is a vast pit. And if we fall into fear. But that's where, in the middle, Jesus needs to meet us. And his arms are outstretched like this in the middle of that fall. He's ready to catch us. He's ready to hold us. He's ready to love us. So don't be afraid. And those days you're just like, what is going on? Like, I have never felt this so emotional turmoil of triggering and panic. I mean, it's just everything combined, making me realize that the center of it all, fear released this latch that let this floodgate of grief flow. This ocean, this sea, this river, rapids of river, river rapids, just overtake me. But it wasn't to hurt me. It was to heal me. If we think about it, if you have a dam built up and the latch is released and that dam breaks, the water comes rushing forth. And what does that rushing forth water do? Yes, it can desolate towns. But what I'm speaking to is that rush of water. I just got this beautiful image in my mind of this dam breaking, this rush of water just coming to cleanse the land. That's what Jesus is doing, I believe. He is breaking open that dam that I've held through so many fears. He's breaking open that dam and he's letting the water rush through and he's cleansing out my heart. He's cleansing out my life. He's cleansing out my mind. He can do that for you too. That's just my process. But that's the image I'm seeing, and maybe we should let those fears run wild for just a few moments, just so Jesus can come in there and be like, all right, time to release that dam. Time to cleanse all that. Time to purify. There's a good word, purify. Time to just purify it all so you're set back right for the Lord and ready to look up and see him and ready to look around you and accept what's given to you. There's a lot of scary things ahead for me. A lot of exciting, wonderful, scary things. And I think it's okay to be scared, but also excited at the same time for new opportunities and new experiences. But I think it's also not healthy for us to continually have these dams built up and to be too afraid to face our fears that we keep these dams built up tighter and we keep our fears running wild in our mind and we don't cry out to Jesus. We need to cry out to Jesus and let him open those latches to those dams and just let the waters flow. I wouldn't ask for another day like today, but I'll probably experience more like today. I have a feeling that that's ahead. I have a lot of grief I need to address. I have a lot of pain I need to address. I have a lot of fears I need to address. But like wild stallions, you can't just put a bridle on them and ride them till they're broken. You can't break a fear. But you can purify and cleanse that fear so it is the Lord's to use and transform. I didn't do the best job of loving people as I would have liked today, but I tried my best through all this going on to love and bless people. I couldn't go out of my way, but that was okay because where I was is where I was. And I have to accept and I feel guilty for where I was. I don't know where I was, except for I was in the middle of a dam being broke all day and I was fighting it. But tonight I feel like the Lord is just telling me, release. Release and let go. I mean, how beautifully truthful are the Frozen songs on the idea of letting go. We can materialize them all we want. But I find the Frozen movies so spiritual in the sense that they really tap into aspects of our emotions that a lot of movies don't do, and just let it go. Just let it go. You know, release. Let it go. Let Christ come in. Let him move things around. Let him purify. Let him heal. Let him break those dams and cleanse those lands. That way you can live. That way you can experience. That way you can laugh and have joy and momentous adventures. Because you're not doing it alone. You're doing it with him. You're doing it with Jesus. We are kingdom children. We can't be expected to just do all this ourselves. I've done it for years. It's a heavy burden, but it isn't mine to bear. It's Jesus's. So I had no idea I was going to talk about any of that, but that's the Lord for you, and I am an external processor. So that was really actually beautiful. The Lord is able to use this moment to really share that with you and to really use that to just help me process and externalize and internalize and hopefully create an encounter that you can connect with, that you can turn your eyes to Jesus and you look at yourself and figure out what you need to puzzle out, what you need to release, what you need to let go of. Grief is going to come. Fear is going to come. But it's okay. And you need those awesome people in your life that tell you that it's okay to be crazy wild with fears. You need those awesome people in your life to tell you it's okay to be where you're at. That there's no need to apologize. Even if you feel like apologizing 20 million times. That there's no need to apologize. You need those wonderful, amazing people in your life to show you. And if you don't have those people in your life, go find them. Ask Jesus for them. If you have opposite kinds of people of life, get rid of them. Move away. Figure it out. Because Jesus wants us with those kind of people. He wants us to be seen and okay where we're at. Not punished for it, as I so feel so many times and afraid of, but to be loved for it. Because we are humans, and we are kingdom children, and we are going to make mistakes, and we are going to trip and stumble. But we don't have to do it alone. So tonight, let go. Tonight, release. Tonight, recognize grief and fear are one. Recognize it's okay to be in the pit because Jesus is right there holding out his hands to capture you. Recognize that. Realize it. Feel it. Know it. Trust in him most of all. All right, world. Virtual hugs. Love you.